Is everyone having a good time here at the conference? They've got some really interesting sessions going on here. I certainly was energized by the one that Fadi just held. It's always good to have that kind of energy, and so to keep that momentum going, we're going to be talking about technology startups and the ecosystems around that. And this is actually a subject that I'm really very focused in on, not just the entrepreneurs who are building the startups, but it's what kind of environment are they existing in, and how does that environment, how do you build that environment, but then also how do you actually sustain it and grow that? And I'm really excited to have this panel here to talk about that. And so I will start all the way to my far left here, and I will introduce Mr. Rashid Ballaa, who is the CEO of N2V. And seated next to him is Mr. Malek, who is the Managing Director of Dubai Internet City. And right to my immediate left is Usama Fayyad, who's the Executive Chairman of Oasis 500. Absolutely, they all deserve applause, absolutely. What is an entrepreneur ecosystem, and what does it look like here in the region?
When you talk about an ecosystem, you're talking about the ability to network, the ability to meet other entrepreneurs, the ability to create startups, support system to help those startups, and ability to find investors to invest and grow these businesses with you, and most importantly, exits, which is the opportunity, which is making money out of this so that other people would do it again and again. What we have in the Middle East, we definitely do have different ecosystems when we talk about general entrepreneurship. When we zoom into certain industries, there is lack of ecosystems. So for example, if you talk about real estate, if you talk about petrochemicals, if you talk about certain industries, there is huge ecosystems that support those entrepreneurs and startups and companies and SMEs. When you talk about technology, for example, internet, which is my background, which is what we do, we see certain lacks of components in this ecosystem, as we have seen it in industries before that. We've seen it with, I personally have seen it with the stock market, I've seen it with real estate in the past 20 years, and we've seen how those ecosystems emerged and grew in that aspect. What we see is that ecosystems do fix themselves eventually, but what we're here today to talk about is how can we accelerate this growth and accelerate the maturity of these ecosystems.
Yeah, I think Rashid has explained somehow the entrepreneurial ecosystem. In Dubai, I think we realized the importance of creating an industry ecosystem before the results and creating the sub-ecosystem in a place. And that's why we have been active in creating industry ecosystem. For example, in technology, in 2000, Dubai has announced Dubai Internet City to make sure we attract the multinationals and also create policies and regulation that will help the ecosystem and the technology industry to actually exist in the Middle East. And today we're luckily having 1,400 companies that out of this community and the cluster development we have created and serving the Middle East, I think we started seeing some of the sub-ecosystems, especially on the entrepreneurial area, which many of those who came as individuals or employees of those multinational actually started their own ventures. Some of the students that have been actually enrolled within the community actually started thinking about creating companies. We had few success stories that actually made the entrepreneurial environment today somehow attractive to be active in. So for the entrepreneurs, I think the ecosystem will take some time to fully exist in a manner that may be comparable to the modern and like states and Silicon Valley. But I think in 10 years there are some success and some development that actually will make this new ecosystems operational in this region.
You bring up a good point about how you bringing bringing up the ecosystem and incubating and creating that environment. Now, Usama, this is exactly what you're working on, and not only educating the entrepreneurs, but really looking at the field. Can you talk a little bit about how you see it, and maybe phase us into a discussion about incubators and accelerators?
Yes. One comment about ecosystems is they're great when they work because you have all the components you need for a system to sustain itself. The problem is, it's well known, they're not self-starting. Somebody needs to actually put in a push. In nature, it's energy, it's a volcano, it's something erupting, it's something opening up. In entrepreneurship, we had to do this in Jordan. Essentially, we were asked a simple question, which is why we invested in a lot of IT education, lots of graduates every year. Why aren't we getting a lot of startups that are succeeding? And when we looked at it, we actually, I was coming back from the US and I was looking for components of the ecosystem, and I could see almost none, other than the supply of IT graduates who have been trained at school. No one knew what it means to run a business. No one knew what fast growth businesses were. Nobody understood what it means to raise money for equity. So you're giving shares, and therefore this investor needs to have an exit strategy. And worst of all, and which is why we called it Oasis for the desert. The desert was, there was essentially zero, early stage investment funds. Nobody was out there to give any company that had an idea, or a company that was just formed but was having trouble growing, that boost it needed to sort of go to the next level and the next level. That actually was ridiculous because the region here, the MENA region, has an excess of late stage capital, very late stage capital. It's easier to raise money in this region than it is in the US, in my opinion. However, that capital can't find deals to deploy in. So our method for creating an ecosystem was basically to create a shock to the system. We want to fund 500 technology startups in about 6 years. To do that, we needed to create an early stage fund. We needed to create a training program, which, by the way, is not sustainable without sponsorship. And most recently, we got sponsorship from the British Embassy and from the US Embassy. But the other components, raising the capital, we raised capital locally through companies and individuals in the region. And we launched the program. And the minute we launched it, to date, we are actually going 2 times ahead of goal. Even though people criticized us and said, 500 is impossible, you'll never get there, why are you setting this impossible goal? We thought in 2 years we would train 150 companies, we trained over 700. We thought we'd invest in about 30, we invested in almost 60. And the demand continues to amaze us. The other part, which is the investment, we try to grow an angel network, and by the way, I urge you all to come at 3 p.m. and see 10 of our companies pitching for 4 minutes each. You'll see how they present to angel investors and how they can actually attract investments. And they've been attracting investments at, again, a surprise to us, between 100K all the way to 2.5 million was the biggest one. All in the last 2 years. We had about 16 or 18 companies that actually got follow-on funding after we funded them initially and trained them and so forth. So it's hard work to create an ecosystem. The beauty of it, though, is once you create it, and you have to do it fast enough so that it sort of picks up and takes, much like when you sink a ship and hope you get a coral reef out of it. So that's what we're trying to do.
Angel investing, there's been a lot of talk in Silicon Valley lately. They're looking at Series A funding, and this is the funding that venture capitalists usually give to startups and the initial capital. And there seems to be there's this fear that it's all drying up. And the Silicon Valley VCs are saying, well, that's because there are all these angel investors giving out the initial seed funding, so we don't have to do it, and they jump right to the Series B. But certainly, as you pointed out, capital is a challenge here, as is the whole VC environment. And so maybe we can you comment about the importance of actually angel investing and how they're actually helping to build the VC landscape here?
We have the exact opposite problem than the US has. We don't have enough angel investors. We have plenty of billion-dollar funds and billionaires and family businesses who are willing to invest big amounts of money, but we don't have enough angel investors, and that's part of the problem. And if you see typically what happens with angel investment is that those angels are usually subject matter experts. So those are people who did exit a startup. Dr. Usama himself is an angel investor. We do some angel investments and some others. So people who did it before, who see the potential, who know how to support this startup, who know the potential of exit in this, who have the network, the relation, those are usually the angel investors. What we have here in the Middle East is like a chicken and egg syndrome. So what we have is that we don't have enough successes so that those people who made millions and billions out of those startups would become angel investors. For those people to succeed, some support mechanism need to happen. You don't really need an ecosystem. You don't need incubators or accelerators to create success. The job of an ecosystem and incubators and accelerators is to reduce the risk and increase the number of successes and increase the number of output that goes out to the market. But my belief is that all what we need is a few success stories to act as a catalyst, as inspiration for the rest to come. So if you look at what happened here in the region 50 years ago, we were a piece of desert. There was nothing. In the UAE, in Saudi, in most of the region, there was no ecosystem, and all of these countries were built without an ecosystem. So it was built simply on opportunity. So there is plenty of money, and there is lots of opportunities, and people start building them. So yes, they started with franchises, with bringing international companies into the region and stuff like that, but then they started innovating and they started doing stuff. What we see in industries that do not have a complete ecosystem, like technology, for example, that we are in, all the panel here, I guess, is that what we really need is a few success stories that will inspire those, billions and trillions of liquidity that's available in the market to start investing heavier. Because the definition, I don't believe that we need to copy, angel series A, series B kind of terms and from the US, because it may end up to be completely different here in the region because of the different culture and opportunity and upside to the opportunity. There are many ecosystems here in the region, in family businesses, for example. So you see lots of family businesses investing within the family, incubating certain entrepreneurs to create businesses and become partners in those businesses and stuff like that. And they are very successful and they keep on growing. But what we need is like a more national thing. Now, from my point of view, what we need to do is, because there is in technology specifically a window of opportunity. So within the next 5 years, there is a huge demand. We see 50+% internet penetration. We see 200% in the GCC, some GCC countries, mobile penetration, and there isn't enough supply for them. So we need an ecosystem, but we know an ecosystem takes time to be built. But what is really needed is that when we have the first few successes and billions of dollars come into this industry, the maturity curve have to be completed very quickly. And we need to have, the full ecosystem functioning within, less than a year. Otherwise, the upside of this opportunity will just collapse. We'll hit a glass top.
Yeah, I just want to make sure people in the audience know the difference between angel investor and venture capitalist, right? Venture capitalist is somebody who manages other people's money. It's a fund, and they typically look for a well-defined company to invest in. The entity needs to be well-defined, the product understood, what's the market. Angel investors are individuals or families, and they invest their own money, their personal money. So it's not a professional management. It is definitely, I agree with Rashid, it's, the culture is not here. We have it in real estate, we have it in oil, we have it in certain areas where people understand, development. People haven't understood yet what it means to invest in technology companies. Much like, and this is very sad to me, if you look at the Industrial Revolution, people here did not understand what it means to invest in industrialization, and the whole society missed a complete industrial revolution. We entered an information revolution about 20 years ago, 25 years ago, and my biggest fear is that we sit there and not participate, because to participate, it means you actually have to create companies that create value, that know what to do. And right now, you know, it's a favor to us. You don't need many natural resources to actually participate. You just need smarts. And I think the region is filled with very good brains, you know, shrewd people, business people, and technical brains. And you need capital that's willing to take risk. If we get those angel investors moving their money from, you know, buying land that does nothing or just developing buildings into saying, you know, this is building a future in the new emerging area of you know, cyberspace, information technology, then I think we stand a chance to participate, and I think we can unlock a lot of value locally here in the region. So that layer is very important. I would love to have the problems of the US where the funds became so competitive that they actually had to move down to the angel level for a while, but now they pulled back. So I don't think the US has a problem. It's just going back to the natural distribution where, you know, angels need to supply the very, very early speculative capital, then VCs come in and say, okay, I can now invest other people's money to make it grow. And then later stage comes in with private equity. That's the norm, but I agree. We're missing that angel network, that angel investor layer, and that's why, again, I urge all of you to come see examples. This is how we think we fix it. Part of the chicken and egg problem is entrepreneurs don't know how to speak to investors. So the first time we held the first angel network event, my expectation was no one will get an investor. This was going to be a year of just teaching the market. I was wrong, and I was wrong because we had taught our companies so well and we trained them so well how to present that people were surprised. People didn't believe that they could hear an entire business plan in 7 minutes or less. And I think that's key to it also, is you have to do all the other pieces, prepare the entrepreneurs, make sure that the pitch makes sense, and encourage investors to say, okay, it makes sense to you, we simplified it enough, try it.
I want to pick up on this thread that you just brought up in terms of you were surprised. And a lot of people are always highlighting the fact that there are so many obstacles, particularly here within the Middle East, for entrepreneurs. And interestingly enough, there's an article in this week's Economist that talks about how obstacles actually challenge people and produce better entrepreneurs. And it really shifted my perception of that, because you are seeing interesting businesses and technologies coming out of the region. And so, Malek, can you actually maybe talk a little bit about what you're seeing and where is the field going?
And I think while we're saying that the investment landscape is not yet mature, the angel investor, the VCs are not up to the standard where we can see a production and graduates of those entrepreneurs. I think the region still have some advantages and some evidence that the uses of technology, for example, the adaptation of technology. I think we are one of the few regions that have actually used the technology to create this reformation in the country political systems. The Arab Springs was actually a result of a technology adaptation. People who use the social media application, to the extent some of those people were saying we need a ministry for technology or ministry for Facebook. So I think the mindset of the people, especially with the age of the population within this region, actually give us the fuel to build that ecosystem. And the expectation is so high, and I think it will take some time till the landscape, whether the investment, the education, the policies and regulation, government, especially after what happened, to be shaped in a way that those entrepreneurs will be actually sustainable. People will think to become an entrepreneur. Students will think that they can create their own companies when they have these examples of success. And I think for us, we see the future is brighter than than before. We see some existence of brilliant ideas. We see an existence of a knowledge transfer through the companies that actually enter the market, especially after the crisis. The market becomes more important on the global map. We used to constitute only 5%, today it's larger. And we have seen the dynamic of the industry also. The open source, the application development allows individuals to become and participate, like Usama said. And I think if we can use all these factors with the availability of cash and driving it through the right way of the investment, I think we will end up with more than 500 in maybe in the region, and hundreds from our side. And I think we're very optimistic.
I would add to that, as Mr. Malek mentioned, there is a huge opportunity. And there are literally tens of initiatives around the region, whether from government, from private sector, from groups, individuals, that are trying to solve parts of the problems in the ecosystem. So we've seen several angel groups, angel investment groups. So there is Argal in Saudi, there is Serb in Saudi, there is Sila in Qatar, and there are many more around the region. We've seen lots of incubators, of accelerators, and stuff like this. Now, if you look at the very high level, some people argue that this is, repeating and reinventing the wheel and repeating efforts of others and stuff like this. I believe that the opportunity is much, much larger than, just to put all your eggs in one basket and bet on one government initiative or one country or one private sector company that does something. There need to be tens of initiatives for this ecosystem to go. However, what is really needed is to accelerate the maturity of those people, because everyone is trying to learn as fast as they can. Everyone is trying to, but no one is doing enough in terms of comparing notes and sharing knowledge and seeing what's happening in the others who are doing similar initiatives to them. So this is one area. The second area is more involvement from government and private sector. Fadi was mentioning this in his keynote before, that it should be a corporate social responsibility part to invest in this, because even the worst case scenario, you put like 500 million into this and you lose it all as a government or as an enterprise, it's nothing compared to the tens of billions of dollars of opportunity that you'll be creating. So kickstarting it is needed. Now, you cannot depend on small private sector companies, on funds, on angel investors, because those people are looking for return of investment. And there isn't enough return of investment because there aren't enough exits today. But if governments, Tim Draper was saying there was a US program to support investors, and Tim Draper, one of the founders of DFJ, one of the largest VC firms, his first fund was 6-to-1 funded by government. So for every dollar they put, the government put $6 against it. We know some initiatives of Aramco that they've done a big fund for SMEs, of STC in Saudi that did a fund to invest in technology, and several other companies around the region that created this more of a social responsibility than a return of investment arm to them. And this is great. But what we need to work at is how can we accelerate the maturity and put a spotlight on what's happening. Because again, the driver of growth is always going to be media, is always going to be perception of entrepreneurs. We face a problem in the GCC specifically. Young citizens in the GCC have opportunities to work in government or to work in private sector for $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 salaries. Why would they quit and start a company? Unless there is an upside, unless there is an opportunity for them to make tens of millions of dollars very fast. And the way we do that is to show them those examples. There are a lot of success stories that no one heard of. We need to put a spotlight on them. We need media attention. We need government and enterprises support into this. And we need to accelerate our maturity, all of us.
I think the one comment I'll say about surprises, which is very important, is there's a lot of talk. When we started Oasis 500, we talked a lot. And I modeled, what I think would happen. If 2 years ago you told me that in a city like Amman, every month we are going to get a boot camp of 60 qualified people going through, putting in a lot of time, taking off their jobs, their families, etc., to go through the program, to get trained, and to get potentially selected for investment, I would tell you impossible. I would not sign up for that. Today, we do that on a routine basis. Every month, we have 60+ people showing up. We put them through the training boot camp. We do the selection cycle and all of that. I think the key, what's missing in the region is, you know, more action and less talk. If we try it, I don't think Jordan is, you know, special in any significant way, right? Maybe we have more IT graduates, but, you know, Saudi is going to have people who, you know, have many more opportunities to, you know, grow in certain industries. In UAE, they have shown it by the government actually investing and making it easier. People come from not just from within the country, but from all around the world. So if you take action, what looks like miracle, you know, Dubai looks like a miracle today. Internet City looks like, well, you know, it's impossible, you know, 10 years ago, now it's there and all the companies are there. You just have to try, and I think the region has many surprises, very pleasant surprises if you try. The reason for that is we are far behind, frankly, right? I mean, let me give you an example. E-commerce. E-commerce is $7 trillion worldwide as an industry. I'll ask you a question. What do you think the size of e-commerce in the MENA region is, in the Middle East, in the 350 million Arab-speaking market is? Now, challenge number one is nobody really knows. Challenge number two, you see estimates from 200 million to 2 billion. The 2 billion actually includes all the bill payment, especially in Sadat, which I don't count. That's not e-commerce. So out of the 7 trillion, we are so far behind that if you actually try the first, you know, online sports shop in the Middle East, you know, we had an exit in 3 months at a huge premium because this company was a first. We're doing the first musical instrument store in the Middle East. We're doing, you know, many of these firsts. The first, you know, true online weddings portal in the Middle East with Arabia weddings, etc. So you just try it and you get a huge surprise. The problem with the region is people aren't trying. You know, it may be the result of, you know, all these years of, you know, weirdness we lived through, but people are not trying, and when they try, they get surprises. So I just want to encourage everybody to try. I agree with Rashid. We need many, many, many more Oasis 500 type efforts in many places, in many countries, under different models, to make it happen, to unlock this very valuable potential that we're seeing in Jordan right now.
Well, speaking of trying, I think that this audience certainly, there are individuals who are here and enthusiastic about entrepreneurship, and I want to give the audience an opportunity to ask any questions from our panel if you have them. Yes, please. Do we have microphones? You can have mine.
Is it working? Perfect. So, Elmira, thanks for driving this. You know, a lot of good discussion on investing and on we need more angel investing, venture. But I run a Turkish company in social media, right? Around 7, 8 years. I was brought in from Yahoo to help scale it. I think talent is absolutely critical to make sure that we execute. One of my concerns is what do we have in the region, and how, especially, Usama, it's a question to you, when it comes to your ecosystem development, how do you make sure there is mature talent, if you will, not just to start out, but to actually, you know, take it to the next level that we have, so we can actually have those exits that you're talking about. For instance, Facebook wouldn't be here if it weren't for Sheryl Sandberg. Mark started it, but clearly Sheryl helped execute to the next level. Similarly, Google, Eric Schmidt played a key role. And one thing that I've heard here, a consistent theme, especially in the UAE, which I find a little bit uncomfortable, is that we want to do it all by ourselves. There's an incredible potential in the region, right? I'm an example of a guy in the Silicon Valley helping run a Turkish company and happens to be of Pakistani origin. So one suggestion is that, and I again want to hear your thoughts, is that if we don't have that kind of a management talent in-house, that we open up more regionally, because there's an incredible potential all around us.
Well, my quick answer is, you know, I'm not going to stand up here and tell you the Middle East is filled with mature talent in management, fast growth, all that stuff. It's missing. But the way you address that is you at least start creating a fertile ground where that talent can actually contribute. And I think the minute you start having, say, a cluster where a lot of startups are beginning to show up, with VCs coming in and saying, okay, there's startups, let me give them funding, we can get the help, we can get the talent, we can get the training. There are many, many very successful Arab businessmen, Arab managers, Arab what have you, who actually are open, including myself, who are open to coming back to the region when they see an opportunity. The region, in many cases, drove them away because there were no opportunities and because everything was blocked. When we actually create that, I think it will come. So to me, that's a good problem to have. When I get to a point where I'm saying my blocking thing towards growth is the lack of mature managerial talent, I'd love to have that problem because I think we can solve that one much faster. The one that's harder to solve is, can you create the framework, the ecosystem, the fertile ground that says, yes, there are many companies trying here and we're dying for mature talent and we're willing to pay a premium for it to come and help us. And once that talent comes back, it trains the local population and then you get your natural cycle going. I don't think there's any magic to it. I mean, these people left the region and learned in a place where it was being practiced. I see no reason why it shouldn't be practiced in the Arab world. But we need to start the practice. We need to start doing something.
Rashid?
I'll take another two approaches to answering the same question. First one, in the late 90s, no one knew what they were doing in the US when it came to internet, when it came to fast growth, when it came to stuff like this. They had to pull in resources from other industries in terms of management. They had to learn how to build stuff in terms of technical knowledge. And it just, you know, because there was an opportunity, it grew. And the same is happening here. We are fortunate enough, as Dr. Usama said, that there is a huge population of Arab diaspora, of people in the US that are willing to come back and do stuff here, in addition to the homegrown talent. So I don't see this as a major problem. The other part is the question you asked, which is the obstacles and how does it make an advantage to local companies. This is exactly part of it. This is an obstacle. Definitely talent is an obstacle. Visas is an obstacle. Customs, local setup is an obstacle. This gives a huge advantage to local companies, to people who know the market here. This gives an advantage to someone like Dr. Usama, who see hundreds of young, bright people and can pick the winners out of them and invest in them or you know, nominate them for investment. And the same with us and everyone who's working on the ground here. So yes, it is an obstacle, but again, when we have an opportunity, when there is billions of dollars to be made, nothing is an obstacle. Nothing will stand in your way. And we've seen Dubai 15 years ago, you know, didn't have any high-rise in Sheikh Zayed Road, and see where is it today. Was it easy to build it? Was it easy to bring 25% of the cranes in the wall to Dubai? It wasn't. When Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid built Burj Al Arab, it didn't make financial sense. When Dubai Internet City was built, I remember it was ridiculed in certain articles and newspapers that, you know, why would you need a couple of buildings and call it an internet city and it would, you know, act as an ecosystem. And look where they are today, what they did to Dubai economy. And we see this, the same thing happening when it comes to tech entrepreneurship, when it comes to internet. In the region, we are on a verge of a gold rush. And all what it takes is a little bit of more media attention and a couple of success stories. And you will see the billions of dollars going into this and hitting the sky.
We have questions. I'm going to go in the back. You with the glasses, yeah. Oh, okay. I'll get you.
What's the average investment capital in your projects? You said 60 every month you have. So is there an average, and what type of projects?
Yeah, there is an average. First of all, we focus on ICT, digital media, and mobile. And that's because these are areas we believe we have expertise in, we can help the companies in, and These are areas where companies can actually address a regional or a global market, because Jordan itself talk about the limitations. It's a very small market. We want companies that can address a much larger market. The average investment is, we start at $30,000 roughly. The $30,000 is for 3 months. You know, many people look at it and say, I need $1 million to start my company, or I need $500,000 at least, or I need a few $100,000. My question to any entrepreneur is, what are you going to do the first month, the first 2 months, 3 months? $30,000 in 3 months is a lot of money. It's allowing you to spend up to, you know, the resources of $10,000 a month out of the gate, right? So the model we believe in is, if you get this injection and you prove the business model, you show me there's market demand, you show me somebody wants to buy it, we will help you get additional investors, and we have our own follow-on. We follow on with 50,000, 100,000, we can go as high as we'd like. But we always try to start in the beginning of saying, show me what you can do in 3 months with 30,000.
I think we've done an assessment on this, and I think we had a similar conclusion of Oasis 500. The entrepreneurs that come from Dubai or from the surrounding region will require this type of amount to start the 3 to 6 even month to come up with their idea, to move it from an idea to a commercial idea, and it can sustain. So I think, of course, the number, we have less number because maybe Jordan offered today more talents than here. But I think this goes back to the earlier question that if we look at the region as a region, I think the region offer the whole components of the ecosystem. So the talent, yes, there is availability of talent, being it in Jordan, in Saudi, in Egypt, and they have, in Dubai we offer the infrastructure, and the funding is also available in the GCC. So I think overall, I think we can, as a region, create a chance for those entrepreneurs to come. The 60 or the 60 also we have, I think, quarterly that applies, and the incubation center we are coming up with, I think will produce some results soon.
Great. There was a question in the back, gentleman in the back, all the way in the back.
Yeah. What did you think of the show, The Entrepreneur? Sponsored by one of your own conference sponsors, Do.
Who's the question for?
The panel.
The show, The Entrepreneur.
Yeah. Okay. I guess such shows are needed. Such media attention is needed, and it goes back to solving a small problem, which is maturing the entrepreneurs from an investment, pitching, and kind of vision point of view. But the rest of the ecosystem has to come up with real kind of success stories and follow through, so that, you know, it will really have an effect on inspiring more and more entrepreneurs to step in.
Yeah, I think, look, TV shows popularizing can play an important role, but I think we always do it backwards, right? To me, it's not about shows and competitions in the beginning. It's really, let's start an ecosystem, and then let's do shows about our own companies, and, you know, let them come out, and let's share real stories versus being entertained by what's being, you know, what's happening in Europe and what's happening in the US.
I love that. That's great. I will collaborate with you on that. I think that's terrific. We have a question up front here.
Thank you. Building an ecosystem is a complex thing, and everybody has a role. I know this is a classical question, but I want to ask for as detailed of an answer as possible. What's the role of government in bootstrapping this ecosystem?
See, the role of the government has to, like what Dubai did actually, and back in 2000 when we started, before even when the internet actually was, somehow there are a lot of uncertainties globally about it. Dubai has taken the role of creating an infrastructure and invest in the actually in creating an e-government that will also spend too much on the technology that they can create companies. We have created an incentive for the technology companies, the know-how expert to come actually and set up and enter the market. We've created economic zones for them to have and own their businesses. We actually eliminated all the barriers for a medium or a large or even a small companies to come. The government, to the extent, I think in 2000, had allocated fund, and we called it, by the way, Oasis at that time, to actually invest in a small and startup companies. But unfortunately, it was too new for the region that to create a technology hub and for someone to invest in it. So we did not have entrepreneur at that time. But the rest of the things, the ecosystem, the government have a big, I think, role in creating and also incentivizing the components, being it attracting large companies, creating the universities that will offer programs that will produce entrepreneurs, allocating funds. For example, the government in UAE have allocated ICT funds annually. There they take part of the revenue of the telecom to actually reinvest it in the technology that are produced in the country and incubation centers. So I think the government have a vital role to play when it comes to creating an ecosystem.
So government is a very dangerous thing, especially in our part of the world. I think the part that's undisputed is government is needed to help establish an infrastructure. Infrastructure, be it physical, be it electronic, be it to some degree the legal framework, that you can create an investment fund, it's okay to have a fund, it's okay to take an investment, your rights are preserved, etc. The second part of the role of government, which I think Dubai gets really well, is get out of the way, right? You create an infrastructure, then let it evolve. Now, later, the government must come back in and do regulation. The problem is the temptation of government employees and government institutions is to jump in and try to regulate and plan ahead of time. You cannot plan this stuff. Nobody, no genius can even plan it, let alone government. One of the things that happened, right, I think with us in Jordan is Oasis 500 was really, the person who was pushing us to start it was King Abdullah. But one of the things he first said is, he said, I want to make it clear, this is not going to be a government effort, and government will not take any part in it. And at first I thought, you know, this is a bad sign, but then I realized this was a secret to allowing us to succeed, actually, is to say, do it, drive it with the private sector, we're here to support, but we can't play any role in it because government doesn't understand this. If we were a government institution, we would have moved maybe 1/10 to 100th the speed, if at all, right? So to me, build infrastructure, yes. Education is big. You know, you look at institutions that get a lot of funding from the government and other institutions like Injaz al-Arab, and Suraya is here, where they actually go out there and train entrepreneurship in schools. They train them how to think. And by the way, like Fadi said this morning, entrepreneurship is a skill. It's not something you're necessarily born with. Everybody has it. You just have to develop it. So training is very important. That I know, believe me, from very hard experience, I can't sustain the training program. If I didn't get these funds, the sponsorships for it, I can't run it. And if I can't run the training, I can't have entrepreneurs who are qualified. So that infrastructure, the training, the education, government needs to do, but stay out of trying to regulate it until it evolves and we understand what it is.
I would add to this one more thing that the government should do, which is leadership. What Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid proved, what King Abdullah of Jordan proved, is that their involvement, the fact that Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid was just now in the other room handing out awards to SMEs, would inspire more and more entrepreneurs to step in and try to do something. The fact that King Abdullah of Jordan, and I attended one of Oasis 500 pitch days where he attended himself, the king, and shook hand with those entrepreneurs. Now next day, those pictures were in the newspapers, and any young entrepreneurs would go back to his father and mother who were resisting him becoming, or her becoming, an entrepreneur, and wanting them to get a steady job, and saying, I shook hands with the king, and my pictures in the newspapers. What have you done in your life? So this is part of the role that, you know, many more governments in the region whether them kings, presidents, or whoever they are, have to step in and create this kind of leadership. Now, the other part that I want to touch on, which Dr. Usama mentioned, which is get out of the way. Now, I would rephrase this in don't become a glass top to the potential of any industry. What would happen now we're facing simple challenges. The challenge of funding, the challenge of talent, those will solve themselves if we prove that there is an opportunity. If a few people became millionaires out of this, this will solve itself. But then you face the challenge of execution and then the challenge of exiting. Now, if it's not possible for a tech company to go public, for example, in the stock market, this will limit the potential and growth of this market. If there isn't clear anti-competition and copyright laws, this will limit the upside of this market. So they have to do active efforts not to become an obstacle for this market to grow. And I've seen this firsthand in the stock market booms in the region. Some stock markets, they acted very fast when the stock market started doubling and growing, and some markets did not. Those who did not act in time, the market grew a little bit and stopped. Those who did act, like Saudi Arabia, grew, the index grew from 4,000 to 20,000. The number of transactions a day grew from 2,000 to 1 million transactions a day in a matter of 3 years, because the government acted very fast, matured very fast in this period.
Great. I mean, I know we can certainly go on, but I was actually told to cut it off. Someone actually came on stage to tell me to wrap it up. Unfortunately, I do want to thank the Aspen Institute for sponsoring this panel. And speaking of government, I think it's a good note to end on that it's not just the private sector and the government, but there are also NGOs that play a real key role. And the Aspen Institute's been running really terrific programs supporting entrepreneurs, and so a big thank you to them. But a big thank you to Rashid, Malek, and Usama. I mean, if the three of you are a testament to what's possible in this region, then we certainly have a lot to look forward to.
Thank you, and please, everyone, come to the Oasis 500 pitches this afternoon, 3 p.m.
3 p.m.
and see what these companies can do.
Great, round of applause.